Hello and welcome. Tonight, we follow Elias on a magical night journey where the ordinary world fades and a hidden valley of glowing flowers and gentle light reveals a place of peace and wonder. Elias had always loved the quiet hours of the night, the moments when the world felt softer, slower, and gentler. He often walked through the fields behind his village to clear his mind, letting the cool breeze settle the thoughts buzzing in his head. But tonight felt different the moment he stepped into the open meadow. The air carried a living stillness, like the sky was holding its breath for something extraordinary. He stood for a moment, adjusting to the darkness. The stars above seemed brighter than usual, glowing with a gentle intensity that washed the meadow in a faint silver hue. As Elias gazed up, he noticed something strange. The stars weren't twinkling, they were pulsing, expanding and contracting like distant hearts beating in perfect harmony. He blinked, confused. He'd never seen the sky behave this way. He took a few slow steps forward, his boots brushing softly against the tall grass. The wind shifted, brushing cool fingers against his skin, and the air suddenly felt warmer around him, like invisible hands guiding him deeper into the field. Then it happened. A thin line of silver light slid across the sky. At first, Elias thought it was a falling star, but it moved too gracefully, its descent controlled and fluid. Instead of fading, the streak of light slowed until it hovered motionless in the night sky. Elias held his breath as the glowing object curved downward and drifted gently toward the meadow. It floated lower and lower until it hovered only a few feet above the ground. The sphere of light was no larger than a lantern, its glow soft yet vivid. Elias approached cautiously, each step slow and careful. The sphere brightened as he neared, expanding slightly like it sensed his presence. Gentle waves of warm light radiated outward, brushing over the grass and making it shimmer faintly. A soft humming sound filled the air. Elias couldn't tell if it came from the sphere or from somewhere farther away. The melody was calming, smooth, soothing, as if the night itself was singing a lullaby. Elias felt the tension in his shoulders melt away, replaced with a strange sense of wonder. He whispered, "What are you?" The sphere pulsed in response, glowing brighter for a moment before it began to drift across the meadow. Not quickly, not urgently, just enough to show that it wanted him to follow. Elias hesitated only a moment before stepping forward. Something inside him, curiosity, instinct, maybe both, pulled him along. The sphere glided ahead, leaving behind a faint trail of silver particles that drifted in the air like dust made of moonlight. Elias walked deeper into the meadow than he had ever gone before. The farther he traveled, the brighter the stars above became. They seemed to shift in position, forming unfamiliar patterns as though aligning themselves in recognition of a long-awaited moment. Elias felt the night changing around him, becoming more alive. The silver trail beneath his feet glowed faintly with each step he took, and tiny sparks of light rose from the ground and dissolved into the air. Behind him, the meadow looked ordinary, unchanged. But ahead of him, the world felt enchanted, like he had stepped into a dream that welcomed his presence. Eventually, the meadow dipped downward into a hidden valley. Elias had never noticed it before, despite passing this way countless times. The sphere floated to the edge of the slope and paused. Elias reached the same point and stared in stunned silence. The valley below glowed with a soft, warm light. As his eyes adjusted, he realized the valley was filled with flowers, thousands of them, each emitting a gentle, star-like glow. Some shone pale blue, others warm gold, others shimmering silver. They swayed softly in the breeze, their petals opening and closing like tiny lanterns breathing in the night air. Elias descended the slope slowly, unable to tear his eyes away. The closer he came to the glowing blossoms, the stronger the soft humming melody grew. It wasn't loud or intense. It was like a comforting hum from a place that had never known fear or sadness. The sphere drifted into the valley. The flowers responded instantly, glowing brighter and turning their luminous petals toward the floating light as though greeting an old friend. A narrow ribbon of shimmering light formed among the blossoms, creating a path that twisted gently through the valley. Elias stepped onto it. Warmth spread through his feet like he had stepped onto sunlight captured in solid form. The flowers beside him opened wider, releasing tiny particles of glowing dust that drifted lazily through the air. Elias walked slowly, absorbing every detail: the soft rustling of glowing petals, the sweet scent of warm earth, the gentle hum of the valley that felt like a heartbeat. Peace settled over him like a blanket. His mind, once filled with swirling thoughts, fell into a quiet rhythm that matched the valley's soft breathing. He felt lighter than he had in years. As he reached the center of the valley, Elias noticed a circular stone structure hidden among the blossoms. It was old, covered in vines with silver-tinted leaves. The roof had collapsed long ago, leaving an open view of the sky. Glowing patterns were faintly carved into the floor, spiraling inward toward the center. The sphere drifted inside. Elias followed. When he stepped onto the stone floor, the carved patterns brightened, glowing softly beneath his feet. The stars above shifted once more, aligning directly over the open roof. Their combined light filtered down like a gentle waterfall, illuminating the chamber in a soft white glow. The sphere hovered at the center and lowered itself until it was only inches above the stone. Elias watched, heart pounding softly, more from awe than fear. The sphere pulsed one last time before slowly unraveling like a flower opening its petals. Inside it was a small, glowing crystal. It floated upward, drifting toward Elias. He extended his trembling hand without thinking. The crystal lowered itself into his palm. The moment it touched his skin, warmth poured through him, not heat, but a gentle, embracing warmth that soothed everything it touched. His muscles relaxed, his breath softened, his thoughts slowed into calm silence. The humming of the valley deepened. The stars above glowed brighter. For the first time in so long, Elias felt completely, utterly at peace. The warmth spread to his chest, settling in his heart like a glowing ember. It didn't burn, it comforted, it steadied him. It felt like the world whispering that everything was all right. A soft voice, not heard with his ears, but echoing gently inside his mind, whispered, "You are welcome here." Elias closed his eyes, letting the peaceful warmth wash through him. He stood there quietly, surrounded by glowing flowers, ancient stone, and a sky that felt alive. His breathing slowed to a tranquil rhythm. His mind cleared. The world softened around him. And there, in the glowing valley under the shifting stars, Elias drifted into the deepest, most restful sleep he had ever known. Elias woke slowly, the way a sleeping leaf drifts back into the world after being carried by the wind. At first, he didn't know where he was. He felt weightless, as though he were floating between two breaths. The air around him was warm and fragrant, filled with the scent of glowing flowers and soft night wind. When he opened his eyes, he found himself lying in the center of the stone platform, the crystal still resting in his hand. The valley hummed quietly around him. The sound was soft, like someone humming a lullaby from far away, yet close enough to comfort him. Elias sat up slowly, rubbing his eyes. He felt different, not changed in a dramatic way, just calmer, as though a deep stillness had seeped into his bones while he slept. He looked at the crystal in his palm. It glowed softly, pulsing in rhythm with his heartbeat. It didn't feel like an object he was holding. It felt like a companion, a warm presence that listened without judgment. The sphere of light that had led him here was gone, or perhaps it had become the crystal. He wasn't sure. The valley didn't explain itself, but somehow he felt that it didn't need to. The quiet beauty of the place was enough. Elias stood, stretching his arms as the gentle warmth of the valley washed over him. The star blossoms shone faintly in the dim early light. He couldn't tell whether it was night or morning. The sky was caught between the two, painted in soft shades of blue and silver. He stepped out of the stone structure and walked deeper into the valley. The flowers responded instantly, brightening as he approached. Their petals shifted in color, glowing softly in blues, pale golds, and warm silver. Tiny flecks of light drifted from them and dissolved into the air, as if the valley exhaled light instead of breath. Elias crouched beside one of the blossoms and gently touched its petals. It felt warm, like the surface of a sunlit stone. The flower responded to his touch, glowing brighter for a moment before softly dimming again. Elias smiled. The valley, the blossoms, the quiet humming, Everything felt alive in a peaceful way he'd never experienced. He wandered further, following the lighted path as it wound gently through the valley. His footsteps made the ground shimmer beneath him. Each step released tiny sparks of light that floated upward like fireflies made of stardust. As he walked, Elias felt a sense of purpose forming inside him. He didn't know what the valley wanted or why it had chosen him, but he felt safe here. More than safe, welcomed. Eventually, he reached a small pond near the center of the valley. Its surface was perfectly still, reflecting the stars above with crystal clarity. The water glowed faintly from beneath, as though the pond held a piece of the night sky in its depths. Elias sank to his knees at its edge, gazing at his reflection. His face looked the same, yet softer somehow, the tightness he so often carried in his jaw and brow gone. He dipped his fingers into the water. The surface rippled, and light followed the movement of his hand like ink spreading through paper. The water was cool but comforting, and Elias felt a soft, tingling travel up his arm. He cupped some water in his hands and brought it to his face. As soon as it touched his skin, the water dissolved into warm mist, soaking into him like something the valley wanted to give rather than take. The peaceful sensation spread across his cheeks and forehead, deepening the calm already inside him. He sat by the pond for a while, simply breathing, letting the silence deepen. The valley didn't speak, but it offered comfort in a way that felt more meaningful than words. After some time, he rose again, following the glowing path as it curved toward the opposite end of the valley. The flowers grew taller here, their petals sweeping the air as though greeting him. The humming of the valley grew stronger, richer, as if guiding him towards something important. At the far end of the valley, he spotted a natural archway formed by two ancient trees whose branches intertwined high above the ground. Their bark glowed with faint patterns that looked like constellations carved into the wood itself. As Elias approached, the crystal in his hand warmed, humming softly in response. He stepped through the archway. Beyond it lay a small clearing filled with smooth white stones arranged in a circular pattern. At the center of the circle stood a tall, slender pillar made of crystal-clear stone. It looked like a shard of frozen starlight, shimmering even without direct light. Elias approached the pillar cautiously, the crystal in his hand pulsing faster the closer he got. He felt a gentle pull, as though the pillar was calling to the crystal or to him. When he stood directly before it, the pillar glowed softly. Elias held his breath. The crystal in his palm lifted slightly, floating above his hand as if drawn by an unseen force. Slowly, it drifted toward the pillar until it hovered just a few inches from its surface. The pillar responded immediately. Light flowed from it like liquid, wrapping gently around the floating crystal. The two glows merged for a moment before separating again. The pillar's patterns brightened, spreading their soft light across the clearing like calm ripples. Elias felt warmth fill his chest again, deeper this time. The valley wasn't showing him something new, it was acknowledging him, like a friend placing a supportive hand on his shoulder. A gentle whisper formed in his mind, not a voice, more like a feeling turned into a thought. "You belong here." The words echoed softly, settling into the quiet spaces of his heart. Elias exhaled slowly, letting the warmth spread through him. He didn't know what he was meant to do or why the valley had chosen him, but he felt the certainty of its welcome. He reached out and gently touched the pillar. The moment his fingers made contact, the stone warmed beneath them. Light flared softly and then eased back into a gentle glow. Elias closed his eyes, listening to the valley hum around him. The sound blended with the soft pulse of the crystal and the steady beat of his own heart. After a while, he opened his eyes and turned back toward the glowing valley. He felt lighter than before, as though a quiet strength had settled deep inside him. The valley didn't demand anything of him. It simply offered peace, comfort, and a safe place for his spirit to rest. He wandered back through the archway, returning to the glowing blossoms. They swayed gently as he passed, brushing his arms with their warm petals. Elias felt wrapped in a soft, living embrace. He returned to the stone observatory and sat in the center of the platform, the crystal resting in his palm. The stars overhead shifted slowly, forming gentle patterns that calmed him further. The valley's humming settled into a low, soothing rhythm. Elias lay back on the warm stone floor, letting the glow of the valley wash over him. His eyelids grew heavy. The flowers' soft music drifted around him like a blanket. Warmth seeped into his chest, settling into the quiet spaces of his mind. And slowly, without effort, Elias drifted again into a deep, peaceful sleep. A sleep without dreams, without worries, just rest, pure and calm, held gently by the valley that had chosen him. The sun lingered low over the distant hills, soft orange light spilling across the meadow as Myra and Rowan continued their slow walk toward the glowing river. The air was warm, carrying the gentle scent of wildflowers that brushed against their legs. Fireflies drifted lazily above the water's edge, blinking in and out like tiny lanterns guiding their path. Neither of them spoke at first. The peaceful rhythm of evening wrapped around them like a blanket, calming their breaths and loosening the tension of the long day. Myra dipped her hand into the river, feeling the smooth current slip between her fingers. The water glowed faintly, illuminated from beneath as though lit by a memory rather than a flame. Rowan crouched beside her, watching as the ripples expanded outward, merging with the soft shimmer across the surface. The river always looked different at dusk, sometimes bright, sometimes calm, sometimes almost asleep. Tonight, it matched the quiet heaviness that hung gently in the air. "You feel it too, don't you?" Myra whispered, her voice barely louder than the movement of the water. Rowan nodded slowly. "It's changing, but not in a frightening way, more like it's calling us to slow down." They sat together on the grass, letting the stillness settle around them. The last birds of the evening offered a few soft calls before falling silent, and the breeze grew cooler, brushing against their cheeks in a soothing caress. Myra lay back, staring at the sky. Stars emerged one by one, patient and unhurried. The first few flickered faintly, then brightened as the sky deepened to a rich, velvety blue. Rowan lay beside her. They said nothing for a long while. The quiet felt full rather than empty, as though the world itself was breathing with them. The grass rustled softly beneath their weight, and somewhere nearby, a small animal scampered through the brush before disappearing into its burrow for the night. Myra exhaled, slow and steady. "I love moments like this," she said, "where nothing needs to happen, where the world is enough just as it is." Rowan closed his eyes, letting her words sink in. "It feels like the sky is tucking us in," he murmured, "like we're allowed to rest." A gentle warmth settled in Myra's chest, the kind that arrived only when she felt completely at peace. She turned her head toward Rowan, noticing the calm rise and fall of his breathing. The tension that had once tightened his shoulders was gone, replaced by serenity that softened his entire expression. The river continued to glow softly, its light reflecting off the leaves above. Shadows swayed with the breeze, dancing quietly across the ground. The air filled with the low hum of nighttime insects awakening, their rhythm slow and steady, like a lullaby written by the earth itself. Myra closed her eyes, listening to that natural melody. It soothed her thoughts, smoothing the rough edges of the day. She felt her heartbeat slow, each breath growing deeper and more relaxed. Rowan's breathing matched hers, their rhythms blending effortlessly. The world around them didn't rush or ask anything of them. It simply existed, gentle, steady, comforting. Somewhere far beyond the hills, faint thunder rumbled not in warning, but in a sleepy, distant way. The clouds on the horizon glowed softly as if illuminated from within, but the storm was too far to bring fear. Instead, its quiet presence added to the sense of calm, like a great creature sighing as it drifted into slumber. Myra felt her body grow heavier in the most pleasant way. Her fingers relaxed, her shoulders melted into the soft earth beneath her, and even her thoughts began to slow, unwinding gently. Rowan shifted closer, not touching her, but close enough that she felt the warmth of his presence. "This is the kind of night I want to remember," she whispered. "You will," Rowan answered softly. "Nights like this stay with us, even when everything else changes." The stars above deepened into constellations, forming slow patterns across the endless sky. A meteor crossed quietly overhead, its glow faint but graceful, leaving a soft trail that faded like a sigh. Myra opened her eyes to watch the sky again, her gaze unfocused, her mind floating. Everything felt distant yet safe. The world moved at a pace meant for dreaming. Rowan's voice drifted to her, gentle and low. "The river will keep glowing until sunrise," he said. "It always does, like it's guarding the meadow while we sleep." Myra smiled, eyes half closed. "Then maybe we should let it guard us tonight." There was no need for an answer. The peace around them wrapped closer, like a soft blanket of warm air and glowing starlight. The grass beneath them felt like the softest mattress, the sounds of the night like whispers meant to guide them toward rest. Myra's breath slowed even further. Rowan's chest rose and fell in a calm rhythm. The world around them seemed to hush in response, settling into its nighttime heartbeat. Nothing pressed at their minds, not worry, not fear, not urgency, only comfort, only quiet, only the soothing presence of night holding them gently as their eyes grew heavier. The river shimmered. The stars blinked. The wind whispered. And everything slowed, softened, and drifted into the kind of peace that carries dreams. The night deepened gently around Rowan and Myra, the quiet settling over the meadow like a soft blanket. The glow of the river continued to shine beneath the surface, warm and golden, moving slowly with the current as though carrying calm dreams downstream. Myra lay still, her breathing steady and relaxed, her body completely at ease as the night embraced them. Rowan felt the cool grass beneath him, soft and welcoming, cradling his back as he listened to the gentle rhythm of the world. The air carried the scent of blooming flowers, their sweetness drifting lightly through the breeze and easing his mind even further. Each breath he took felt smoother, softer, and a little slower, as if the night itself was guiding him toward rest. Above them, the stars shimmered in patient patterns. They did not rush or flicker sharply, they glowed quietly, as though they understood the need for peace. A few clouds moved lazily across the sky, their shapes drifting like slow waves passing over a calm sea. Rowan watched them with half-closed eyes, feeling his thoughts lighten until they floated as quietly as the clouds. The meadow around them seemed to breathe. The grass rustled gently, the trees whispered lightly. A small stream of cool wind brushed over their arms and faded just as softly as it came. Nothing was loud, nothing was sudden. Everything moved in the same slow rhythm, as if the entire world had lowered its voice to a calming whisper. Somewhere in the distance, an owl called out again, soft, low, steady. The sound settled into the night like a final note in a soothing melody. Myra shifted slightly, her lips relaxing into a peaceful expression, and Rowan felt comfort simply from knowing they shared this quiet moment together. He closed his eyes fully, letting the darkness behind them blend with the night around him. He could still sense the warm glow of the river, the slow breaths of Myra, the gentle hum of nature settling into sleep. It all wrapped around him, warm and steady, guiding him into the same calm state. His last waking thoughts drifted like feathers: gratitude for the peaceful night, comfort in the stillness, and the soft certainty that this moment would stay with him long after dawn. And then, as the river glowed and the stars watched from above, Rowan allowed himself to fall completely into rest. The world held them both gently, and the night closed around them with a final, soothing embrace. The story ends here, in calm and peace. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this, make sure to like the video and subscribe for more relaxing stories. Good night and sweet dreams.